Hi, everybody. Good morning, afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. It's about 11 o'clock, time to get going here. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is John Henkel. I am the Pro AV Product Marketing Manager here at NETGEAR. It says show right there on my shirt. Today, we're going to be talking about our new additions to our line of M4250 switches targeting AV over IP, and we're going to show you some really cool world's first automatic configuration features. And we're going to show you lots of cool things. You're going to wow and amaze you, I promise. If you have any questions during the webinar, during the presentation, just please enter them into the questions box. You have a questions and answer box. And if you have some other chat things too you want to talk about, you can use the chat box too. But for questions you might have along the way, we'll try to get to them along the way and not wait for the end. So just go ahead and enter them in the box there. We have some guys around to help answer those questions if we can't do it live, and they'll be checking that as well. And then another point of officialness here, we want to make sure you stick around for the full webinar, because if you do, you could be entered in a raffle to win one of the M4250 switches, specifically the 10G2F PoE Plus. It's the GSM 4212P 100 NAS, so it's a North America model. So stick around after the Q&A session and the presentation. Everything else is done as we wrap things up, and I will announce the winner of that raffle. So something to look forward to. In the meantime, my buddy Laurent is over here next to me. Laurent Massia is the Director of Product Line Management for our managed switches, which is the M4250, and I like to call him the father of Pro AV here at NETGEAR. I'll let Laurent start things off.
All right, John, thank you very much. Very glad to be here. Thanks for having me. Let's go over that. And as a quick intro, I want to tell you that we are not going to spend too much time on the slides, maybe 15 minutes or so, right, John? Because the point today is really to tell you what's new and then show it to you. And we will put our hands on and we will configure it with you so that you can see it's real. Right? So that's what we want to do. All right. So let's go over that. This is our quick introduction. Why NETGEAR wanted to build this new line called the AV line. And the reason is that, well, we understood, because AV is not new at NETGEAR. We started many years ago with advanced M4300 series and M45, but we understood that for the vast majority of the AV installations running 1G, first, price was a concern. Second, the form factor was not good enough because it's not a pizza box in a data center that you want. And more importantly, three, the software. The language was not the same, right? Because you have applications, you have those acronyms for those endpoints, NVXs and AMXs and NDI. When we, on the IT side, we were keep talking about those multicast IGMP technical features. So we made the decision to, restart from scratch. And this today is the result. We want to show you the latest and greatest of the NETGEAR AV line. So John, maybe you want to probably say a few words because you came from the AV, right?
Exactly. So I'm a good testimony for all the stuff we're doing, I think, for the AV world. I've got a lot of years in the AV side for manufacturing of encoders, decoders, and other stuff. So I'm one of the guys that comes in. I don't know what you're talking about with a lot of this DHCP even, I'll say, yet alone IGMP and other concepts like that. So as we start marketing to all the people, as well as configuring switches the right way, I understand what that means to people. It's a huge, huge thing to help make it easier for everybody. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, John. So I think we should stay, both of us, on top of this one, because that's a funny one. And actually, that's yours. So congratulations. We go to 11 now with the 4250, because guess what? We had 5 models back in September, the 8 ports. And now we are coming with 6 new ones, 24 and 48 ports. So now we go to 11.
I love that line. Great job. Yep.
Super. So you know what? Time to go over the M4250 AV line. And I hope you see, guys, the video that we are showing on the screen right now, because, this is a really new form factor. It's black. You have a front sleek panel for the display on the front, and it looks good for AV racks, right? So this is our really first hardware platform for AV, and now again goes to 11.
Mm. They look gorgeous, really. I mean, these you can tell right away they're a different emphasis than NETGEAR, even a lot of other people too, right? They're just different looking because we heard from customers saying, build us a different looking switch. We don't want the usual look. So we did it.
So thank you. The ports are in the back. That's the main thing. When you rack mount these switches, the front, you really have just status information and a black slick display. And let me take you through the IOs. First, you of course have the management ports because those switches are managed. So you can connect a console cable, a USB cable, or a Cisco-like console cable for management with out of band as well. Then of course you have the IO connectivity with the RG45 ports. Most of them are blue, you see, and the blue means the PWI function that is working on those ports. Next will be on the right side, usually, the fiber uplinks and the on-off switch close to the AC inlet, right? And this is really cool because you can shut down the switch or switch it off and on again to restart it. And the beauty of this system, and I believe that was a first, you have the status information on both sides. So you can see the main status and the individual port formation on the front when the switch is in front of you in the rack, but you have everything duplicated on the other side. So we really actually duplicated the circuitry.
They look gorgeous again. And we've done a great job making sure that the status is accessible in both ways. And then, like you mentioned, rack mounting. One, I think, really unique thing here is you can still switch it around. If you want the ports in the front of the switch, if you will, we give you rack ears, and you can see there, right above Laurent there's a couple inch recess on those rack ears. So you can have cables coming out the front and not have to have the switch mashed up against the door of the rack or anything. So that's included. It's not an extra fee or anything. It's stupid to have that. So whichever way you want to mount it, no problem either way. There was a quick thing in a question here in the chat or the Q&A thing about larger port counts and things. And I just want to say real quick, this is the wave 2 for M4250. The first wave was announced back in September, and those were smaller port counts. Stay tuned to see what we have here with larger port counts on wave 2. So a little something to come.
Thank you, John. All right, so this is our transition. That's enough with the hardware. Of course, you'll see the new guides, and we are going to configure them. But now let's go to the software, because even before AMX, NVX, NDI, Dante, even before that, very often you get some requirements for acoustics, right? And not only recording studios like drum installation, but conference rooms, for instance, you just can't have a loud, noisy switch. So for the first time, I believe in this industry, we can ask our software to shut down the fans, to go fanless with some restrictions about the overall PWI budget. But still, in the conference rooms, you'll be good to go totally fanless. And for all other installations, the quiet mode in the middle is the default. And I promise you, these switches are really, really quiet, quieter than anything else in NETGEAR, and I believe different from almost the entire marketplace. So this is something I want to show you real quick. So John, what can you tell us about the noise and how difficult sometimes it is?
Well, I think everybody's been in a conference room or somewhere where it's just blaring away. And you're on a webinar with somebody or a Zoom call, whatever, and that noise just gets in there, and it's ridiculous to have. But there's been no other way to do that. The switches that don't have fans may not be capable enough, right? That's the other part of it. So you can buy a cheap little switch, but it's going to be not to your needs. So I think the 4250s really show that we can do the fanless or really, really quiet modes and still offer the functionality we do of a fully managed switch.
Thank you. All right, so let's me show you a very quick intro. First, the first generation, right? You remember we got these 8 ports, and I wanted to just highlight one, just one, the first one. And this is the switch actually that is here for the referral, right, John?
Yes, exactly.
And this is the go-to switch. This is the least expensive, I should say, the value really switch for any small audio job, because you have plenty of PoE, 8 ports for all the nodes, extra ports for the controllers or the touch panels in the conference rooms, and some fiber uplinks. So this, especially if you go to our Pro AV distributors like Herman Pro AV, like Almo, the pricing is really reduced compared with the IT distribution because we wanted to provide you with the value 8-port Dante switch. So do you need a Dante switch? Please remember, out of the first generation, this guy is really valuable.
And a good point, Laurent, I want
So,
to make real quick if I could. This is also through our AV distribution network, right? This isn't our typical IT network, right? So all of the Pro AV switches, the AV line, M4250s are available from your AV distributor of choice.
of course, thank you. Thank you, John. So, of course, I'll show you, the tables because there are many models. 11, right? I told you they go to 11 now.
Yep.
But another way to quickly, get it is to divide this series into 2 groups. And the first group is called the switches with 1G uplinks, 1 gigabit uplinks. And why would you need that? Well, because when you only have audio over IP like AVB or Dante or AES67, it's tiny streams overall. So you don't need to pay the price for 10 gigabit fast uplinks, right? And well, in this series, we have now a 8-port and a 24-port, really cost-effective new platform, and a 48-port switch on the top right, which 40 ports of PoE. So 8, 24, 48, excellent for audio over IP, even for multi-switch installations, because again, 1 gig can be sufficient for the design. On the bottom right, there is a extra switch because this one is highlighted in yellow. It goes up to the 90 watts per port. It's called Ultra PoE, 802.3bt. And this guy is a 24-port PoE++, and that can be also great for video over IP as long as you stay with a single switch, right? Because with video, you do need the second group with the 10 gig uplinks to carry videos in and out across switches. So the first group, 8, 24, 48s, and a 24 ports of Ultra PoE for those power-hungry devices like, the QSys NV32Hs, for instance, or the first generation of the Crestron NVXs, the 350s.
But these are really
All right.
good. Sorry, as you mentioned, for 1G installations, there's a lot of audio stuff because they don't need a whole lot more, right?
This is absolutely correct. And again, audio installations are very cost sensitive, because customers don't expect to pay the price of a larger switch with plentiful of bandwidth with the 10 gig uplinks. This is how it is. So this is why the first group is probably going to be, the go-to for audio. Now let's go to the second group because video, we love video at NETGEAR, and we have so many of these AV manufacturers that you see on the top right that actually are not only close partners, but also actively certifying those switches and publishing those switches on their website because they got approved. So with the 10 gig uplinks now, we have an even larger family with, again, 8, 24, and 48 ports with some more power, of course, more horsepower with the 10 gig uplinks. And on the right side, 2 other models for 802.3bt, Ultra PoE, 8 and 48 ports. So globally, this is a good way to remember the 4250 line with the 1G and the 10G versions.
Perfect.
And so, John, you must be.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so we have
no,
more.
I was going to say you must be maybe saying, "Oh my gosh, so many units! How can I find my way through all that?"
That's exactly what I was going to say. No, we didn't seed each other questions ahead of time, but you're right. There, for me coming in too, to know the subtle differences of all these, it's been really difficult as I've been doing all the product pages, things like that, the data sheet you've worked on to interpret that. But this, I think, really helps figure out these are more targeted for 1G, these are 10G with the uplinks. And that's again something that me as an AV guy didn't pay attention to as much, but all the uplinks. And we have some diagrams coming, I know, coming up that you show some of these configurations, which is great. And I also want to say we do have some of the specs coming up for these models. People are asking questions about some of those specifics, which is great. There's interest already, and we'll talk some more about the specs coming up too.
Thank you, John. So if you want spec, we do have specs. So this is something that we don't want to spend time on today, right? Because this is what you get just going to the netgear.com/M4250 or any of our Pro AV pages and get the product brief, the brochure, the data sheet. Those tables are in there. So this is the first generation, the September wave, with the 8 ports, the 12 and the 16 port fiber switch. But what you want to see today, of course, is the second wave, because now we at last have those higher port counts with 24s and 48s. And see, the table is confusing. It is confusing, you must say it, but just remember, it is like just looking at the uplinks, 1G for audio or single switch video, and 10G uplinks, plenty full of 10 gigabit Ethernet for video, because you got to move those videos in and out in any multi-switch installation.
That says it all right there, And again, we have all the detailed specs, and these are not just some dumbed down switch either. These have full configuration, full management, and you'll show some of this coming up through the GUI, of course, the full IT GUI or the new AV GUI as well. But these are powerful switches. These are not only applicable to the AV market, really, right? We're here talking about them in Pro AV mostly, but they can certainly be used in a lot of IT situations too, right, Laurent?
Oh, this is a very good point. Yeah, we probably held that too much, right? This is good for AV, this is good for AV, but maybe you want to see the engine behind it. And let me tell you that. Let's go and configure a little bit of Dante and some video for AMX or NVX. And when we will be done, we'll go fast, okay? So that I can show you the engine, the software. And seeing the software, you'll see that if you really want that, of course, those switchers can be used for any kind of IT jobs. Actually, that's a good one. All right. So now, before we go to this enhanced demo, that's your obsession. I mean, that's what we have been told by discussing with all these AV partners. Oh my God, I need a quiet switch.
Yep.
And some even times I need a fanless switch. So see, this platform, this is the Wave 1, was already allowing that. So the fan off mode is configurable. We'll do that together. And of course, you are restricting a little bit the power output, because you got to reduce that, because if not, the switch becomes too hot, right? But if you stay within these specs, the switch will operate fanless. And if you're not sticking with those restrictions, the switch will revert back to the middle default column called quiet. But please look at that. Even in a noise sensitive environment, 27 dB, especially when you know that's real ISO, standard measurements, worst case, full power, full data on all ports. This is extremely low. So in the quiet mode, which is the default mode, these switchers are definitely quieter than anything else we have done before and that we have seen outside.
And I want to add, just to make sure, because this was new to me, not all of them, the next slide shows it, Laurent, actually.
Let's go to the next one.
Not all the models can be fanless, because some of these are honking huge switches with a lot of PoE, and the power supplies just won't let you be totally fanless. But otherwise, here's all the numbers. And that's the other thing I noticed between Wave 1 and Wave 2. Wave 2 here, the larger port counts, you've done some real detailed specs on the fans and what to expect and what conditions. That's awesome.
Hey, thank you, John. And that was fastidious because again, that's a real ISO dBA value, sound pressure level, as you say in the AV world, and 25 degrees Celsius ambient, right? But you're right, the software does not only shut down the fans or enable the fans, right? The software also monitors constantly the heat, and we have this CPLD algorithm that real time adapt the fan speed to the PV delivery so that always you make sure that your switch is the most quiet switch out there. And in advance now, John, you know what you will get, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why this table can be good.
I think it's
All
great.
right.
Are you ready for a demo?
So, oh yeah. Well, before let's see what we want to demo first. And both of us, we are going to stay on that slide. Oh, actually, no. You know
Yeah.
what? Let's disappear. And John, take us through that.
Yeah, so this is something I developed when I started because I wasn't quite sure what IGMP Plus is, and this is something that's come up lately, around social media too. It's like what makes an AV switch versus just a regular switch. This is one of the key things, and this is some secret sauce that NETGEAR's done. You see the trademark. Only NETGEAR has what's called IGMP Plus for multicast situations. So, as explained to me by my friend Laurent here, what it does is prevents flooding the network. So some of you have probably already implemented AV over IP, plugged in an encoder, decoder, and all of a sudden the network goes down. IT people hate that. AV people hate that too, to be honest. We don't want that to happen either. So what we've done is be able to make sure that the initial switch they're plugged into, the leaf switch in these diagrams, limits that traffic going through. So when you have a receiver that's across the campus somewhere or a different floor or even on the same floor for that matter, requesting a stream, subscribing to a multicast stream, it's only that receiver that's going to get it. We're not going to send all the transmitted streams across the network to everybody. So we're not going to flood that network. And that's based on some IGMP voodoo, I will say, I guess, configuration, really, the querier, and all these things that are set up, take many menus to go through and make sure to set up correctly. We set all it up for you correctly from the factory. So out of the box then, right, they turn on and we won't flood your network. And that's a huge saver for people. So I know that the big problem has been AV people have to learn IT have to learn AV. So I think we're really doing a good job. Sure, I wear a NETGEAR shirt, but I believe that we are doing a good job of helping people work out of the box, and then they can adjust and change things later. So this is one of the things, speaking right to that, making a pro AV installer's, integrator's life easier. There you go.
And John, even if the spine switch at the top is the querier, even if the querier is up there, you will not flood any multicast to the querier. That's pure magic.
Secret sauce,
All right.
magic. Good job.
Thank you.
Oh,
So
yes.
let me take this one because, well, this is what is new, actually. So nobody seen that yet. And we are very, very excited because with IGMP Plus now, you are getting across the entire series auto trunk and auto lag. And I agree, those names are not super friendly, but you know what? Let me take you through that, John, because with auto trunk, you are an installer and you got a job today, right? You got to tell the switch, one, I want some ports for management. I want some other ports for video, maybe AMX. And then you want some other ports for your Dante primary. Okay, so video, audio, and management. You have three groups of ports, VLANs. Take a second switch, you do the same thing. You will say my port 1 and 2, my port 3 and 6, and my port 8 to 12 will be on those VLANs. But guess what? As soon as you want to connect them, well, you need to configure those ports usually because you got to tell the switch that those uplink ports will be a trunk carrying all those VLANs. And with auto trunk, forget it. Because when you have done your job telling the switch, well, this port, this port, this port, the link, any link that will be detected between two switches will be automatically and dynamically configured so that your VLANs do go back and forth between the switches. So the switches are more intelligent because they automate any kind of interconnect. So this is the auto trunk. And with that, you need the sister feature that is also now enabled. This is the auto lag, because as soon as you will want to connect more than one link, and why would you want to connect more than one link? Well, to get more bandwidth, right? Especially if you do video distribution with plenty of 10 gig links, the switches will actually take those additional links and configure the link aggregation for you. So now automatically the switches know how to automatically configure the VLANs, trunking between switches, and the link aggregation so that you are not going to do it. And John, I think that's what we should demo today, right? Because when I first was, talking about this, everybody came to me and said, that's insane. How can it work? It's not true. So maybe we should see if that's true or not.
I think that's great. And that'll also show off the AV user interface too, I think, for people, and you can quickly show how simple that is to use all that together. I want to address two things, if I may, that are coming up in questions. And one of them, Keith already answered, but I'm not sure if the other expanded answer for this, but somebody asked about the 4250s and with the multi-gig ports, 2.5G ports, and PoE or PoE plus. And Keith had said, no, the 4250s are not. The multi-gig 4250s can also do PoE. So I want to help you clarify that a bit, and maybe the 4300s can answer some of those needs.
Yeah, of course. So in the 4250 line, this is correct. We have one multi-gig Ethernet switch that is, considered as an aggregation switch without PoE. That's true. And never say never, right? If we see a need with more endpoints that are multi-gig and PoE, we'll do so, of course, quickly in the 4250. For now, if you need multi-gig and PoE, you need to go to the 4300. We have a 16-port switch that is pretty good for that. Yeah.
Just want to make sure that's known. And then we'll talk about supply and things too. People are talking about already, where can I get them? When can I get them? Things like that. So we'll talk about that, which is a good sign. But I do want to show people this interface and make sure we don't run out of time for that stuff too. So
Thank you. Thank you, John. So, well, we need to hurry up, right? Because no need to spend any time. This is all the data you'll find in our collaterals. But to John's point, can I use this switch for something else than PTP or DSCP or Dante or NVX or NDI? Of course, because these switchers inside are real enterprise class switches. Despite their low price points, they are very capable. But this is not the point today. This is what we want to do, right? And John, we are going to do that together, right? This is the AV user interface that you guys can have right now instead of dealing with the kitchen, which is the IT style GUI, which I personally know pretty much by heart, but it's complex because you have hundreds of different pages alongside the menus. This AV user interface is, just talking your AV language. So let's do that together. And if you have no objection, John, see those two switches up there, they are brand new. So this is my personal test bench with all the switches from previous and current generation, but I just unboxed today for you two brand new units that came straight from the factory. So a 24-port PoE Plus switch, and under it, there is another 24-port PoE Plus Plus this time, Ultra PoE with two power supplies. So I don't need them two, right? Because I don't power anything for now. So you can use that switch with only one power cord to get actually 720 watts out of it. And the thing that we want to do right now is that, well, we just want to connect to the first switch. It's factory default out of the box. Connect to the second switch, do some quick config, and connect them together, right? And see if yes or no, they will talk to each other and experience it. All right, so let me actually launch my Firefox browser. So this is the NETGEAR NMS 300, and all the switches you were seeing on the bench are actually here connected to a core fiber switch. And my two little guys, brand new, they are on their own, alone, right? Connected to nothing for now. And they are seen by my NMS system because I'm just connecting to the out-of-band port. So the first one at the top is a PoE switch. It got this 42.11 IP address from DHCP. So let's go get there. And then we'll configure the 4210, the PoE++ switch just under it. So how do you get there? Well, you just need to open a new tab and go to the 42.11 address. And before we were saying, well, you need to use a special 80 colon 8080 to get to the AVUI. It's gone now in the latest firmware, in the latest code. We have both user interface, the main one or the AV user interface. And that's what we are going to fire up right now together.
And Laura, the question has come up, will this new AVUI also be ported over to 4300s?
Oh, maybe. Yes, surely, likely. There is no ETA. We have been really busy, and let's make it perfect first, all together, thanks to your feedback. And when it will be perfect, yes, we will want to evaluate how fast we can port it to the 4300s. This is a good thing. So the 4211 IP gives me this welcome page, as you can see, and there is one device connected to this switch right now. And at the bottom of this welcome page, oh, sorry, I need to relog somehow. At the bottom of this page, you see the fan management. This is where I'm going right now with you to shut down the fans, right? And this is very, very practical. And I can do it because I don't need much PoE budget on that switch. So John, you know what we are going to do? Let's go to the network profiles. This switch is default. What is a default switch out of the box? Well, it means that all ports, they are black or gray, dark gray, and all ports, they belong to the management VLAN, the VLAN 1, which is open bar with that funky static NETGEAR IP address, okay? So let's alter that, because maybe instead of creating something brand new, we are going to edit it and say, look, you are the VLAN 1, I want to use you, but you are not going to do data. I want you to do audio Dante. And just by doing that, saving it, we are changing the entire configuration so that the VLAN 1, which is again default across the switch, is doing everything by the book that Dante Audinate is requiring, the DSCP prioritization, the Bonjour, the PTP, the Multicast IGMP, everything. So you don't have to do it, but you know that the audio Dante has been set up.
And you'd probably change the
John,
name.
I know.
You can change the profile name too, of course, from management VLAN.
Oh, yeah. So this is called a restriction because by nature, the VLAN 1 is a management VLAN for the switch, you know. So you cannot edit that name because it's a default name. So of course, if you want to have your name, John, then you need to create another profile. Okay, let's do that together because I know you always want to do more. So let's say that on top of Dante, we want to do some video. All right, so we are going to select the video profile because we want to do, I don't know, Crestron and V-axis, for instance, together. Let's say, well, I want to use the 8 first ports. And this time you can give it a name. And John, that's going to be John's Crestron and VX, for instance. And let's say those are the 360s. And you will then select the VLAN you want for it. Let's say this is the VLAN 10, and maybe take a light blue color. All right.
Color. Thank you.
So should have been selecting dark blue. I'm sorry, John.
That's perfect.
So light blue, John's Crestron NV axis doing video on the VLAN 10. And here my ports are blue, but let's see what happened to the other profile that is doing my audio Dante. If I go back and edit it, you see that the 8 first ports are gone, right? They are not selected anymore because you took them and you moved them to another profile, to another VLAN. So before we jump to the other switch, I cannot resist. What if you want to deliver IP addresses to those NVX units because you want to set up a DHCP server?
Yep, that's a tough one normally, right?
Yeah, and this is like very difficult in the IT interface because you need to create a pool, you need to bind that pool to the VLAN. Here, instead, in this AV user interface, we thought that this way will be simpler. See, you are going to toggle that little button, enable the VLAN routing, the DHCP server. You are going to assign a static IP to that VLAN. So let's say that's the 192.168 VLAN 10 as a prefix, and 254. The DHCP server is available right there. You can now use this static IP that you have defined for that purpose as a router for your devices. If you happen to have, like I do, a DNS server somewhere on your network, you can use it and click save, and it's done, right? I could also have said I want my DHCP addresses start with and end with, so that you can reserve free empty ones for static IPs. But you see that your blue video profile, John, is now delivering IP addresses to your NVX units.
Nice.
So as a recap, because we want to do the same on the other switch, let's remember, right?
Yeah.
VLAN 1, all ports, audio downlink, and we are going to take some ports to do the video, John's Crestron NVX profile with the VLAN 10.
Perfect.
I want to show you something real quick in the neighborhood, because we have this new firmware that is out now for all the 4250 models, and you get this new neighborhood page that gives you the exact list, all the devices that are connected to your switch. It's a table with the host name, the port number, the layer 2 MAC, and the layer 3 IP address. And I should refresh that page because, see, it was another NETGEAR switch, an old M4100 switch with its own static. But if I refresh that page, oh, I'm sorry, I should not have refreshed. My timeout is too fast. Let me go to the neighborhood. Well, it will come. It will come. I wanted to show you the IP address from the DHCP server, but we'll get there later. All right.
I like the way that shows that we're live actually here, Laurent. So this is not a canned demo where everything comes up perfectly.
Yeah, no, this is funny. But let me find out actually. My video is here, and in my DHCP server. Okay. So maybe I did not save it correctly, right? Let me save it.
And this is a
maybe that's the
sorry.
Maybe that's the demo effect.
Oh, it could be.
Maybe that's the demo effect. But we are going to, and let's take it, and because it works, right? And we'll check that IP address later.
Yep.
All right. So now let's go to the second switch, because remember, we got this second switch just under it, right? So we are going to log to the number 10, and real quick, let's do the same. So this one is a PoE++ switch. You said, John, that you want to do some Dante on the VLAN 1 across the board, right? Because that's going to be your main application on that switch.
Yes, please.
And you also have some video devices, maybe just the port 1 and 2. That's going to be John's NVXs.
Yeah, so on this switch, I only have the 2 ports connected. The other switch, I had 8 of them. Yep.
All right. VLAN 10 and your famous light blue. All right. No need to do the layer 3 DHCP on that switch because we want to connect them. So it's going to come from the other switch.
Right.
All right. So now we have our second switch that is prepared. So what we want to do now is to connect the second switch to the first switch and we are going to use those copper 25 and 26 ports, okay?
Got it.
Not only to do one link, but two links to experiment together. So I am going to get there slowly but surely. And we are going to connect the first switch to the second switch. So what I've done, I have connected those two cables together. All right, my video froze for some mysterious reason. But see, now we have those two cables. Sorry about that. All right, so let me go back to the web page, right? And we are on this second switch. Let's refresh. And now, well, we should see in the link aggregation section something that was not there before, because we just got our port 25 and 26 put into a link aggregation group automatically for us. So if you edit it, you'll see that the 25 and the 26 have been put together into a lag. So this auto lag is working.
So all you had to do was connect them, right? That's all you did, was just plug a switch between them. Plug a cable between them, sorry.
Plug the two cables, but no loop, right? Because the switches dealt with they really manage the loop. And now we have those two ports connected, but I know you, John, you're anxious, right? You want to see it by yourself. So if you go to your John's NV axis, you'll see that these two ports are grayed out because they are member of a lag, and this lag is automatic, and it's a member of your VLAN. That's going to be the exact same thing on the other VLAN, which is the VLAN 1, right? So auto lag and auto trunk is working. But now we should see the effect on the management software. And see this link? It's up now because the management software detected the connection on the port on the ports, right? So auto trunk and auto lag are working. That's what I wanted to show to you today.
Nice.
All right.
And these things work amongst the other 4250 switches, right?
This is absolutely correct.
Right.
So of course, the switches, they check their hands, right? John, we can actually check our hands right now, do some bumps. So by talking with each other instantly, they detect each other and they use the software to say, okay, first we do the trunking, second we do the lag, and third we remove spanning tree.
Got it. There's a couple of questions about that. One of them was really talking about the auto lag. Will it happen if you connect a server lag? So I think that's separate. You'd have to manually configure that.
Yeah, so to be extremely, so let me reshare my screen real quick, because you will understand it maybe better if I do that over here together. So let's this time connect to the main user interface, okay, which is the same switch, the PoE++ switch, the bottom switch, but to the IT GUI this time. And in the switching tab, in the lags, you'll see that the auto lag admin mode is enabled. That's the default, okay? And yes, this auto lag only works in between a 4250 switch and another 4250 switch. So if you have a server with some link aggregation, several NICs, the auto lag will not check the hand and do that, right? You will just need to, either in the AVUI or here, create a lag, as we used to do, for the past 25 years. But now it's faster in between switches, so that you can design your networks for AV faster, so that you don't have to spend time on those stuff anymore and focus on what's important for you. That's the end point, making sure that your AV is working, not the switches. So lags is here. For the VLAN, that's exactly the same thing. If I go to my IT GUI, if I go to my VLAN trunking configuration, I see that auto trunk is enabled. And I will see likely that the lag number 1 over here is a trunk, right? Should I put that bigger a little bit, maybe, so that you see it better?
I can see it.
See?
Yeah.
The lag number one is a trunk, and you have this trunk that carries the VLAN 1 and the VLAN 10 automatically. Of course, if you don't like it, you disable it and you will do it manually. While we are at it, let's do the quick checklist, and then we will finish with the designs that we can do together from now on. So for the Dante, you need Bonjour, right? Because Dante is using the MDNS Bonjour packets for discovery. So the Bonjour is activated. For Dante, you know, John, that you have to deal with those DSCP queues, right? So that you have to put the 56 into the 6th. You have to put the 46 into the 5. And we have learned so much the last year with many of you Dante specialists. Some cases you need to put the 8 into the 2nd queue. So this is all done for you. But above all, the most complicating thing is probably about IGMP, right? And multicast. Oops, sorry. So multicast with IGMP snooping, well, it's basically done by default, but everything has been enabled, including the NETGEAR IGMP Plus mode. But see, because you have created your two VLANs, your VLAN 10 for video is also fully configured and ready to go for video IGMP. So all this should be done here in theory, right? But now, if you go back to this AV interface and see the difference, actually, I should go to the 11 maybe. My browser unlocks me all the time, but let me see. It's cleaner, right, John?
Yep.
Because it's actually something that I hope will accelerate all your deployments. Yeah.
That's great. And again, as a layman, you can use the AV interface, and even as an advanced person for that matter, use the AV interface, have the confidence that all those settings are there for you. I think a lot of people will probably use that and go back and check the IT interface and just double check everything's configured correctly. But how awesome is it that we've worked with all those manufacturers too, because we know that idiosyncrasies of each one has a bit of a different setting so that you've really gotten that configured properly. So trust us, they've been certified, and not just we have a handshake and say, oh yeah, we're certified. They've had our switches and we've had their equipment in our labs, and the guys answering questions know that because they've tested some of this stuff. So anyway, I think it's an awesome job. We have about 10 minutes left, I think, so far. I know people want to see more and more. We could probably stick around for an extra hour and answer questions and show people everything, but I think this will whet their appetite, and we should keep on. So yeah, this
All
is a
right.
good slide, right? This is a team that you set up, Laurent, just before I joined, actually. I think I remember the announcement at CEDIA or something, or ISE even. So there's a team that we use of professionals of NETGEAR employees around the world. You can see the blue dots there spread completely across the world who help you with network designs. Because we know that often, even if you're an IT trained professional, CCNA, whatever, you may not know all the intricacies of our switches and what the best configuration is for those. So we'll help design your network system for you for our Pro AV installations. We also will help, of course, train you on some of the products and make sure that you know how to use them. They will certainly help as you deploy these systems as well in the field. And I know from one of the case studies I did with Alex Pendleton, one of our system engineers, it was huge installation, calls over the weekend, engineering support over the weekend to make sure things were done correctly. And we found some issues and we solved them very quickly. So these guys work 24/7 for you when you're installing the project, because we know you're there sitting in front of everything. And the other thing is that Laurent's on those emails, and engineers are on these emails too. As you find things in the field or have suggestions, then Laurent hears about it and will make some suggestions to change the product in the future, whether it's firmware or maybe it's a new hardware design that you're finding I need a certain type of hardware change. Laurent can help make that happen. So all of this feeds through one email address, proavdesign@netgear.com. And Laurent, you've done a great job with these people.
Hey, thank you. And frankly, hats off to the entire team, because we have great sales, pre-sales and post-sales engineers, and they are actually on the chat box right now. So hats off, because it's difficult, but we love it. And again, don't come to us for the large ones. Of course, we love it, but any project, any conference room, any small installation is valuable, because it's like cookie cutter for you after, right? We will take you through the switch selection, the installation, the configuration, any issue. Sometimes you have those touch panels, they are flooded by the multicast, you don't know what to do. We will show you how to prevent a touch panel from being flooded. And when you know that, then you're more equipped for the next one and the next one. But come to us. It's much better than doing things on your own. You're not alone anymore.
Not at all. So that's a huge support part of the puzzle, really. And from a manufacturer standpoint, I know that a lot of the things we offer customers aren't the way that everybody else does this kind of work. So limited lifetime warranty, okay, but next business day replacement, that's huge. Again, you're in the field, something happens, maybe a shipping problem or something else happens, heaven forbid, we'll get you the next day replacement. That's awesome. And of course, 24/7 support, lifetime chat, things like that. And it's not at the level 1 support chat for somebody with their Wi-Fi access point in their home. This is going to be the higher level Pro AV support team. So we'll make sure you get the right support for that. And we'll cover some more of these later too. There's a community, and some of the people I know on the webinar are often frequenting our community at netgear.com. There's a business side of that and a Pro AV section specifically within that too. So you can search for answers and also pose your own questions. Laurent gets an email automatically for those. I know I get some of those as well. So we can answer questions there as well. And then just for general information, netgear.com/ProAV shows you all the things we offer in general, and then offers you links to the products too. So those are all good things. So as Lauren has said earlier and often before, it's not just we want to sell you a switch and you got a switch, we're done. It's the whole package of that initial switch, of course, as well, with all the things that work great out of the box. It's the AV interface, it's the Pro AV engineering services team, and those guys are rock stars and will help you make sure it's installed correctly. And then service and support as well. So next business day replacement, things like that here. It's a total commitment that you will not find from any other switch vendor for sure.
You are spot on, John. Absolutely. Because you don't buy a hardware. You don't buy even a software, right? What you need to procure and make sure you get is support, really, at the end. You can find hardware and software everywhere in the world, but support, real support, tailored with network specialists, with a great AV culture, including an AV professional like John, is absolutely key. So John, you're right. It's good to spend 1 minute more on that, because this is the main difference between a switch platform and the NETGEAR M4250, and maybe the 4300s, the higher end platforms with those removable PSUs and stacking and all that, more advanced, let's say.
Yep.
This is the support. This is the service that you can get out of NETGEAR. And the commitment is not only this support and service, but also the executive management, because all that takes a whole lot of resources to the NETGEAR organization. But when there is a real problem, like, something interoperability issue with some kind of devices that were not seen before that caused issue, the general manager of the NETGEAR business unit is going to show up, and it's really important you have an entire company, an entire organization that is committed, top down. So that's really important.
A couple of things, Laurent, and I forgot if we address or what other slides we have coming up. To be honest, we're coming up on time, but a couple of things I want to make sure. Oh, we're going to run over time. There's been some supply questions about that, and certainly trying to get these switches into the marketplace, and people are aware there's some supply chain issues around the whole world, basically, not just us, of course, and also questions about TAA compliance for people too. I want to make sure we address those questions.
Yeah, so let's start with the TAA. That's easy, because TAA compliance really means country of origin, right? Must be TAA eligible, and sadly, most of the M4250s and M4300s, they are made in Thailand and Vietnam. So it's not China, but still it's not TA eligible. So only two models, the multi-gig and the 10 gig switch in the 4250 are coming from Taiwan, which is TA eligible. But please collaborate with your NETGEAR business development manager or your account manager, and we help you out for the TA questions. Supply, well, first of all, the entire supply chain is constrained because you have all of a sudden a huge demand everywhere, not only us, the entire industry, even cars, Teslas, right? They want chips. So that's not easy, but it's getting better. And you need to know that the entire organization is committed. Of course, we see unexpected demand on these new series, and it's going to be better, much, much better soon, later this March time. And we should see ample supply in the second quarter. So bear with us while we are accelerating our factory. So before we then conclude, I wanted to show you a real simple design here, because you don't have to build giant networks. Now that you get those switchers with plenty of 10 gig ports, you're good even if you have a daisy chain. And of course, don't put 10 switches or 20 switches this way, right? Because the broadcast, the spanning tree is going to lower the performance. But if you have 2, 3, 4, 5 switches, daisy chaining is a snap now, because auto lag, auto trunk, and IGMP Plus working that out for you. So just tell the switch where the blue color must be and where the yellow color must be for your control or audio and video, and that's it. So the daisy chain is now possible. It is enabled, right, by the 4250. Of course, the good old star topology is present, and you have this spine switch available, working the same way, totally automatically. And I could not resist. Of course, we can do greater networks, larger networks with the 43 and the 4500s, but the 4250s, you know what? They can scale big time, and they know how to do redundancy. We actually factored the redundancy in the user interface so that you manipulate the bridge priority. Instead of medium, which is default, you just set a low priority for one switch and a higher priority for the other switch. And then one of the two switches will be considered as the cold redundant switch, and you will be good to go. So John,
Awesome.
As a quick conclusion, because now it's time to say goodbye and answer the last questions, we didn't mean to bother you with the competitive analysis, right? Because all in all those products in the world are switchers, right? But really, the high level view is that everything else in this industry are switchers. They can have an AV look or not, doesn't matter. The inside is always an IT switch. So what we have tried, and I believe what we are delivering now, is a tailored AV interface that speaks your language. You can pick your AVB, Dante, AES67, QSys, NDI, ever. And please come to us. We will keep adding new profiles. Every time we'll see something new on the marketplace, we'll go certification with the manufacturer and put an approved profile in that database. So that's the key. Well, I hope it was a good conclusion. John, I'm pretty sure you have the last words.
I try not to always, but I think in this case, as presenter, as the organizer, I do. This has been a great session. There's a lot of great questions. Again, I think we could probably go on for another hour or so and answer questions. And maybe we should do that, Laurent. Maybe we should schedule like a live session with questions only and figure that out, because that'd be really helpful. I think we've covered most everything. And thanks so much for the guys hanging out in the Q&A session from NETGEAR, because they've really done a good job of keeping on top of those. It is a little bit past the hour. Thank you for sticking around. And if you were hanging around to figure out the winner of our contest, the randomly chosen winner is Jeffrey Katz. So, Mr. Katz, thank you for your participation today. You have won the M4250 10G2F PoE Plus AV switch. I don't have the applause keyed up there, but we could do that sometime. what you would need to do then is to reach out to this email address if you would, or you can reach me too. NA Channel Marketing, North America Channel Marketing, NA Channel Marketing at netgear.com, and let us know where to ship it, things like that, and we'll get that out to you as we can. Recording of this webinar will be sent to everybody and everybody who registered as well if you didn't attend, so you can go back and review all this. If you have any other questions, you can reach out to NA Channel Marketing at netgear.com, or else you can find Laurent and myself on social media, LinkedIn, and other places. We really appreciate your time here. Laurent, this was fun. I'm glad it all worked out really well, and I look forward to doing some more.
Thank you, John.
All right, everybody. Have a great day, evening, wherever you are. Thanks so much.